Politics and International Relations at the University of Bristol in southwest England. Filippo, thank you for being with us here in France 24. We appreciate your time. We're understanding these talks, when they get underway, if they get underway, will be at the White House rather than the State Department, Donald Trump even dropping in to say hello. Does this risk turning it into a sideshow and block really any development?
Well, we really don't know. It looks like Donald Trump also last week has been very vocal on this process. He has released a declaration through his social media asking, actually demanding that Israel stop bombing Lebanon as a result of the ceasefire or so-called ceasefire that was agreed a couple of days before. This time, it seems like he wants to step into the process in person and may want to have a role into this process more directly. What looks like is that given the fact that the negotiations with Iran are effectively stalling and the situation seems to be going in the wrong direction, President Trump is using the Lebanese front as another way to sort of claim some results or some progress in the disastrous war that it has begun and is trying to put an end of.
Indeed. So there is, as we say, a truce between Israel and Lebanon at the moment, in the south of Lebanon. That, of course, Hezbollah is the point of attack for Israel. But nonetheless, in spite of all these words about truce, we've had deaths, including the death of a journalist. Now, we can remember, you and I, I'm sure, Donald Trump asking the Israelis to stop bombing Gaza, saying, this is enough, people are being killed, stop it. Those words weren't heard. Yeah. Is there any sense that Trump's words on this one will be taken on by Israel at all?
Well, we will have to see. The reality is that, even before, we already had a ceasefire in November 2024, and that was regularly violated by Israel thousands of times, making basically that ceasefire meaningless at the end, and eventually providing a sort of legitimacy, let's say, in the eyes of Hezbollah to then start again with the hostilities in retaliation to the killing of Khamenei at the beginning of March, and therefore precipitate the country once again into conflict, as we saw, right? So we will have to see whether the situation is going to improve at this point. We have no clear indication. What we see so far is that it looks like the greatest of the hostilities remain concentrated in the south of Lebanon, and the rest of the country is fundamentally living in doubt through what it looks like a de facto ceasefire, but nothing that is really been agreed black and white in any clear manner. It remains fundamentally an informal agreement. Last week, when there was this declaration by the State Department and Israel, this declaration was officialized by Israel and the State Department, but was not officially endorsed by the Lebanese government that we could see. There was no clear indication of this happening. Instead, we had President Aoun giving his own declaration, the Prime Minister as well. But again, everything remains very, very ambivalent in that sense. So we will have to see whether Israel de facto will want to implement the ceasefire or not, and the extent to which Hezbollah will respond to any attack that it suffers, as it did in the past days.
We've had a journalist killed, Filippo, another journalist seriously ill as a result of an Israeli attack. We've also had 2 French soldiers killed as a result of what is being called a Hezbollah attack. Hezbollah is denying having taken part in what happened, but nonetheless, 2 UN peacekeepers who happen to be French soldiers are dead. 1 journalist has been killed, another one is seriously ill. The nature of what is going on here is not looking good in terms of trying to find any kind of peace, is it? What kind of movement are we expecting in discussions if these discussions happen?
I think what the Lebanese government is trying to achieve is the consolidation of what has been achieved so far. That is at least a degree of softening of the type of attacks to which Lebanon is subjected from Israel. And on the other hand, what they will try to push for is for Hezbollah also not to respond to provocations. Nonetheless, as you were saying, we witness on a daily basis what are effectively crimes of war. I mean, killing journalists is clearly a crime of war, perpetrated by Israel in this case. Attacks against peacekeeping forces, of course, are also a violation of international law and the law of wars, of course, in that sense. And that means that, step by step, the situation degrades and exacerbates and become increasingly tense and may get out of hand once again. That is the risk that we may witness unless today negotiations produce something that is a little bit more significant. The only person, the only actor that has a degree of leverage on this process is actually President Trump and the US administration. We will see if they will be willing to exert that pressure on Israel and therefore establish something that is a little bit more solid and beneficial to the security of the region in the next few days.
Things are dropping in front of me as we're talking, Filippo, from a security source in Israel. Israel is not attacking Iran. I suppose we take that with a pinch of salt and we see precisely what happens next. But it's in the wake of Israel Katz saying that basically Israel's waiting for the green light to bomb Iran into the Stone Age. This kind of rhetoric, of course, isn't pointing towards peace in any way, shape or form. But coming back to the situation in Lebanon, do you see Israel and Lebanon working together to neutralize Hezbollah? Is that something we could see happen?
Well, look, it's a complex process. Israel and Lebanon, they're not formally working together to neutralize Hezbollah. The Lebanese government has been tasked with disarming Hezbollah. It has done so also to an extent, sometimes through the so-called mechanism, also on the basis of indications that have been given by Israel and its intelligence capacities and so on, right? So that's a degree of coordination that we saw, at least informally, and perhaps again, not in an official capacity. We will see whether this continues, but the reality is that, also this process of disarming Hezbollah will have to be a gradual process. The risk of, establishing a process that is sudden will constitute a possibility for the Lebanese state to fundamentally implode and face civil strife as a result of a process that is too accelerated and is not done in a way that relies, that can deliver the security that is needed for it to happen successfully.
Filippo Dionigi, Senior Lecturer in Politics and International Relations at the University of Bristol. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your analysis that you shared with us. A pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you. Deliveroo and